Good afternoon to most of you. I hope you're either having lunch right now. Maybe if those of you that are workaholics are doing so. Well, we're having our free webinar for today. Today's webinar is going to be Abacus Billing, Revising Matter Billing Details. My name is Ben Fudelemos, and I will be your host for today for the next hour or so, depending on, of course, the many questions that you may or may not have. It might be shorter than that, or it might go all the way depending on the questions that we get. As housekeeping items, please, by show of hands, if you have audio and you're listening to me and you're able to see my screen, can you please, in the viewing pane, put your hands up so I can see that is nice and clear and you can see my screen. My screen should be Abacus Law Accounting, and now I would click on Matters so that you can see my Matters browse come up. Correct? Great, fantastic. As far as the questions are concerned, you can write those down under the chat pane where it says questions. You can type away your questions, and I would prefer these towards the end of when I've completed or gone over all the material. However, if you do feel the urge to ask the question right then and there because you think you're going to forget, by all means, write it down. And I either, depending on the flow of the webinar, I either would address it right then and there, or I would address it towards the very end. Okay. So having said that, let's just get right to it. Okay. So today's webinar is with regards to the revising the matter billing details. Now, I don't know how many of you are actually use this feature at all in the currently. But that's our friend that's going to be under matters and where it says matter billing activity. Even though I know it says matter billing details because look what happens. Once I click on it, it comes up and the window says matter billing details. So yes, it's a little, what's the word? Misleading when it says that you can click on matters, right? And then go to matter billing activity. And then when you actually click on the window, it says matter billing details. So at the end of the day, what this covers is all the transactions that can be captured within a particular case or matter. I like to think of this as a snapshot of the current state of a case, right? That would you like to pull in and look at any given time. Okay, so if I were to bring up examples, right? If I were to come in here and double click on the lookup arrow, that's going to take me so that I can start looking or searching for the case that I want. Okay, so the case that I want, clearly, obviously, given the array of cases that you or matters that you've already set up, are going to show up here. So if I were to pick one, for example, let's say, which is my Mr. Bell, okay, as in my example of a case, you're going to notice that I have tons of information coming through here. You're going to have your date range that you could have chosen. By default, it knows to go from since inception, right, 1/1/1900, all the way through current date. Okay, the breakdown that is giving you here at the top is with regards to the AR balance, if you have any, with regards to the unbilled amounts, if you've inserted, you included any, whether they're fees or costs, right? It'll total up here. And then the billing ending balance will be the summation of the two, the AR balance and the unbilled amounts, which gives me my billing ending balance. Now, having said that, if any one of the cases that you're looking for has a trust balance, in other words, you've deposited some trust monies in there, you would also be able to see that there's a trust balance at the end here at the bottom. Now, this can come in very handy, as in if, let's say, a client walks in the door and he wanted to know, okay, well, up to date, I know that I haven't paid some of your invoices that I'm behind, but also give me the unbilled amount that I have in the system as of today so that I can set some money aside to make sure that I can pay this off fully. And let's say there was the end of it, of the work, no more work is going to get done, then you can easily pull this matter billing detail and give them that answer, as opposed to having to run a pre-bill and give them information that route. Because I'm sure most of you know how to run pre-bills and go that particular route. So I like to think of the matter billing detail or the matter billing activity, however you want to call it, as a quick look or quick view at the current state of any given case, right, based on the transactions that are out there. By the same token, it can also serve as a confirmation of what transactions have been entered into that particular case. In other words, you could have entered into the system, and what I meant to say actually was posted into the system. If I go down the line here, okay, I'm going to notice that there's a $250 charge, okay, that seems to be a filing fee, right, SFF, on January 2nd, and for the vendor legit filing, and it gives you all ample detail here as to what that's regarding. So I did enter that particular filing fee. How do I know? Well, clearly is within my matter billing detail here, but it's also telling me that it's unbilled, and that clearly makes up this 250. What you need to understand that is, as I am looking at this, right, if I have some of my colleagues, right, and I go back to my matter, and I'm going back to Abacus Law, and I go back to my matters, and let's say I'm going to pull that one, same exact one, Stefan Bell. Okay, when I pull up the matter Stefan Bell and I go into my notes, for argument's sake, I'm just going to add a regular old note here. So I'm going to put in 1.5, right? I'm going to put in that it's just review, analyze, as in the type of note, which, by the way, I hope everyone knows how to enter time, right? Because as you enter time through notes here in Abacus Law, it'll then shift and move over into billing, right? So I'm entering as my note originally, January 29th, 1.5 BD. I'm the timekeeper for this one. Telephone conference with client, okay, regarding project Unicorn, okay. I'm then going to bill this. Once I bill it, right, it'll create a time ticket, which you guys I'm sure are aware of. This is how you create a time ticket, and I'm going to make it billable. So this time ticket I'm making billable is 1.5. There's my value, 750. That's going to then move over the minute I hit done. And you're wondering, how can I view this without having to run a pre-bill? One quick way of doing that, if you wanted to then see, oh, how does it get added to the whole case, and then give an answer quickly right away. Of course, if I go back to my Abacus Law, you see how this obviously hasn't been refreshed, right? But my window is open. If I click refresh, okay, and I go all the way down, you noticed it. Now see how that bumped that up to 1,000? That's because it's adding the 250 and the 750. But if you didn't have this box checked, this little fellow, you see how it says include unbilled time? You wouldn't be able to see, right, the new times that were there that I just added. So always click on unbilled time if you wanted to see that, so that then it can be reflected here at the top. So notice clearly now how once I did that, now it adds up my AR balance with my unbilled and gives me my new billing ending balance. So the information that you're seeing here can easily be updated from one click or the other. So always get used to, in my case, refresh, or if you don't mind, get out of it, come back in, and then that will definitely be refreshed as well. So as far as the matter billing detailed, what else can we do within this quick view or quick look, as I like to call it? Well, you can do many things actually. You can delete entries. Let's say you didn't feel comfortable with that entry that you just entered. You can actually delete it from being there altogether, which means that when it's time for you to run the pre-bill, you won't see it. So instead of having to delete it at all or write it off within the pre-bill, you could have actually taken that step here. If let's say it was erroneously entered, or let's say it might have been, it needed to be transferred to a different matter. Okay, so if I click and I wanted to transfer a different matter, you can just double click on it. It'll bring the time ticket window, and then from here, you can move it to the appropriate matter. Okay, and it should have been in 1021. Let's say I was a little dyslexic, and it should have been 1012, right? It should have been in this one, and I would hit select. Then it's easily that when I hit done, it spell checks it. This one requires task codes, right? So I have to go through and make sure I put some task codes on that new matter. So it won't let me do it. So let's just go in here. I'm just going to choose anything, just for argument's sake, just to enter it in right away. Okay, once I do that, Are you sure you want to change the matter number for this entry from 1021 to 1012? I'm going to say yes. Once I do that, clearly I come back here. It's not going to be here, right? It's going to be moved over into the right matter. So if I go back in here, I then put 1012 as my new matter. You'll then clearly see that you've moved it over, and that just added here to the mix, and it's listed. See, so clearly this is a matter that I've entered a bunch of time and some photocopy charges, but I haven't really billed it at all. So if you start analyzing more or less the different screens that I'm showcasing, when it's showing as debit versus credit, in this case debit meaning any unbilled time tickets, right? Once you bill it to the client, okay, and it's paid for, you'll see the credits show up in this list. If I go back to my 1021 here, okay, you might have noticed here at the top, okay, well, this was my fee that I charged on that particular invoice, and then it's saying that it paid off this fee, and the breakdown that you see is going to be exactly that. So that invoice that I sent over, right, was all invoice 24. These are my fees, and these are my cost that I added. Hence why it'll break it down as in fees, whatever your costs were, and as in hard costs versus soft costs, or what a different category costs. And when it pays it off, it'll even say, well, the check number was from this one, but it's being applied against the particular invoices. So there is a question here by Jill, and let me see if I get this correctly. It says, if I understood this properly, she's asking, when he put in a new billing entry, does it show vendor legit date, etc., rather than just the billing entry? That language then comes up on the invoice, which does not look proper. Well, actually, I think I threw you off there a little bit. When I entered the client, the entry, that this section doesn't come up with all that extra language. If you do enter a filing fee, okay, in your invoice, it only says filing fee. It will not say legit filing and the rest of the information. This is just for the purpose of the description within the matter billing detail. Okay, when I did enter a new billing entry, a new time entry, it only is going to say the actual, it just doesn't even give you this level of detail. That's just strictly for here. I think there was one line item below, and you might have read this as opposed to what I just entered. Okay, because if I look back to my 1021, 1012, see, you'll notice that it only says telephone conference with client regarding project. Right? Even then, this is the actual comes in the entry. In the invoice itself, and the example that you were just mentioning, it's not going to show the entire verbiage. It just says filing fee. Okay? But good observation on that with regards to that. Okay? Going back, or even staying within here, within the same concept, if you wanted to, I don't know, if you wanted to then see the print is out, as in the rest of the information that's here, you can click on print. Okay. Once you click on print, it gives you like, oh, look at all the matter billing detail. So sometimes the attorney doesn't want to see, let's say, a pre-bill, because they just want to again see what's there so far. And you can use this as a report, and you can print it from here. That is an option as well. Now we know, of course, that the pre-bill has a lot more detail. And what I mean by that is, well, not only just giving you the matter billing details transactions as it would here as well, but it'll tell you, right, if you've billed any other costs up to date, how much as far as costs or fees are concerned, how much of it is aging, receivables, that's a little bit more clear in the pre-bill. It also tells you any trust activity, as in how much was entered and withdrawn at any given point, right? And of course, all the general information about the case. Is it on hold? Are you billing monthly? Are you billing a flat fee? Are you billing hourly? Who's the attorney? Who's the originating timekeeper? That sort of information. So it gives you a lot more. But at the end of the day, if you just want to see, so far, what are we showing that we have unbilled, and you wanted to do a quick run like this, maybe let's say your attorney likes this format of in an invoice, to review, then you could do it from here as well. So it's just understanding what your attorneys want and giving them as a different format. At the end of the day, pre-bills are more effective in my opinion, but if they don't like the pre-bill format, you can always go this route as well. So again, if I show print for this will give you then, oh, look at all the credit. Some people are a little bit afraid of the whole debit and credit action going on, and then the billing status of billed versus unbilled, right? Because what you were seeing there, if you go down the line, you're seeing, okay, well, there's unbilled, but this is a payment, right? So why is it saying unbilled if we got paid? The word unbilled in this instance actually signifies that it has not been reflected on an invoice. So yes, you did get paid, but you haven't showcased that in the next invoice that you're about to send. So when I do send my next invoice, which is going to be worth $250 only of unbilled costs, and then this goes through and you actually post the invoice, then this will then turn into billed and this one as well. Okay, so it's just understanding that, look, yes, I am showing it to the client on the invoice now, then that's why it'll then say billed. So keep that in mind when it comes to the billing status. In case that you were not aware, as far as any of these reports that you end up running, you have the ability to, if you want to see a little bit larger, you can click 150 and you can see it like this from within these options. The other option is obviously you can print it, and that's clear. Most of you would know that. However, if you were more in Excel, you want to export it, you can click on the drop down here. You could send it, you could put it in a PDF. You can even put it in an Excel spreadsheet format. So you do have options for exporting it in different ways. Okay, and that's really the gist of what you wanted to see as far as the breakdown here. Another thing going down the line here, if we say show bills, this will actually give me a breakdown of all the invoices that I have for this particular client, right? And if you wanted to show it as a PDF bill, you can click on show PDF bill, and then that would generate the actual invoice that's there, right? Copies of the invoice. So from here, you can also view all your invoices. I know some of you are aware of this, maybe some of you are not, but this same list of invoices will be under AbacusLaw the minute that you post them into the system. So if you go back to AbacusLaw here, under your Docs tab, there should be all the copies of all the invoices you've done, right? So if you would double click here, it says how it says bill, they're going to be here as well. Okay. Let's see what else I can give you from here. Okay, so a lot of the times when it comes to the matter billing detail, how is it also used? Okay, now some of you might have been getting in the habit of at times, right? When it comes to entering costs, you come into your billing section, you're going to go to costs and adjustments, and you're going to enter any new costs that you have, right? I'm, I'm, I'm assuming that a lot of you know how to do this. So I'm just going to walk you through how to enter in a photocopy charge, for example. Okay. And then what I want to make sure is that you understand that how do you double check your work? How do you know that you've entered a photocopy charge? So let's say you don't remember, and let's say you have so much on your plate that you're always you're one of those individuals that really likes to double check their work. Okay. What is going to assist that in that double checking that work? And that's going to be the good old matter billing activity or the matter billing detail. And I'm just going to walk you through an example as to how you can utilize that matter billing detail window again. Okay, so let's say I'm going to go into add, and again I'm going to pick here my matter, and let's go with Stefan Bell again as my matter. I'll double click on it. The client expense code I want, I'm going to go photocopy, right? So there's are my photocopies. Photocopy is easy enough. Cost per item, 25 cents, right? Because you can itemize them, right? And then you're going to put a number of copies. You're going to put 233 copies. That's $58.25 worth of photocopies. Okay, that's a lot. Okay, so you're like, okay, well, by the way, and I don't know if you know this, again, some of you might and some of you don't. You can come in here and do the description, because when you put $58.25 on the invoice, they're going to want to know what makes up 58.25 of photocopies. The good old word photocopy is not going to cut it, right? So you can actually say 233 photocopies, right, at 25 cents per page. And when I do that now, this for sure will be right next to my $58.25, justifying why we're charging them that, right? So we can hit save, and that will list it in my, what I like to call my list box. Now remember, when it comes to adding costs, you can have as many of these costs listed here, but until you post them, you will not see them in the invoice, right? So I can go back in here. I'm going to go add. This time around, I'm going to go, again, I don't go back to Bell just for fun. Okay. And this time I'm going to choose a filing fee. Okay. So the filing fee that I'm charging, this is what we consider entering it manually as opposed to setting up a vendor. Okay. It's going to look a little bit different, right, in terms of how it's being reflected in the matter billing details window. Okay, when it comes to the filing fee, let's say this was $185, and all I wanted to say is filing fee. I'm going to click on save, and now I have two that I've added to the mix. Now, what I'm basically saying is, depending on your procedures that you have already in place within your firms, you can easily list as many of this as you like, and at the end of the day, you can grab them all by hitting select all, and then you can post them all at once. Or you could do a transaction by transaction and hit post one at a time. Or you could do it weekly, or you could do it monthly. However it is that you're used to entering costs, you can do so. What happens when you obviously have nothing in here listed? You're not going to know, did I actually enter it, or did I did I enter it and forgot to post it? Well, then that would have been reflecting here. But if you actually entered it and posted transaction by transaction, then you're not going to remember whether you did it or not. So that's where I'm going to come and say, where's the best place to confirm that you've entered certain costs? Now, clearly, before we even do that, you got to make sure that you highlight and hit post. When I hit post, those two are gone. Again, I have my clear list here now. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go to my good old matter billing detail activity, pull up my friend Stefan Bell, which is 1021, and boom, if I go down the line, there it is, 58.25 and $185. See how it says is listed differently? Because this one I listed it through my vendor that I had preset. In other words, I wrote a check to my vendor, I paid that off, and once I did that, it knew to even put it in here. The other one is, let's say that you do QuickBooks and you write your checks through QuickBooks and you simply want to account it for so that you can get reimbursed on your invoice to the client. Well, then you can enter it through here, as I did, through my costs and adjustments. So different kind of setup. There's difference between those that use QuickBooks and those that don't, and they use Abacus for its entirety. In other words, billing, accounting, check writing, back reconciliation, chart of accounts, right? And there's some folks that just use Abacus, right, for just case management and billing. They rather do all the check writing and everything else through QuickBooks. So this is where you would enter it to get reimbursed by the client this way manually. And if you wanted to do all your check writing and everything through Abacus, then you obviously set up your own vendors within Abacus and have that all in there, right? Automated, so to speak, so that whenever you write them a check to a specific vendor, it'll know what type of expense to go to right away, filing fee in this case. And then, of course, it'll go to the client cost advance chart of accounts. Okay, so that's why you're saying, oh, this doesn't look right, proper as in showcasing in the invoice. It won't show all of this. It's just for you to distinguish which one you paid through, you did an actual check writing versus one that you manually added so that it can showcase on the bill. Hopefully that makes all sense to you guys. Now you can see my unbilled amounts are here. So this is a great way of me saying, perfect. Everything is within here. I already did it. I don't have to do it. And you can move forward and rest assured that you're stress-free because everything is entered. And by the time you run your actual invoice, pre-bill later on, everything will be in there for you to see. Now, I'm going to bring something up different that's going to throw you off a little, okay? I shouldn't say throw you off, but it's just the way we are actually displaying it. So this is great when it comes to hourly format as a billing method for any given case. it showcases the time. Here, I moved the time, but the time was being reflected here. Let's say that I'm going to go in now into my matter billing activity. This time, I'm going to pick one that is set up slightly different. In other words, it's set up as a flat fee. Okay, Cindy Martinez. And when I double click on her, you're only going to see the costs, photocopies, or anything else. You see how it says include unbilled time? It doesn't even, it's graded out. So even if you did enter some unbilled time or you just enter some time in there, it won't reflect it here because it knows that it's going to bill at a flat fee. Okay, that might have not been the best example. Let me grab another one, see if I can find one. Um, okay, this was not either that good, but you see how the unbilled amounts here, it's all, this is a contingency, a flat fee. See how the amounts are just simple descriptions of the types of costs, right? It doesn't give me any fee amounts because it doesn't allow it to come through as well. So this is especially more useful for everything that's set up as an hourly format, right? In other words, the billing method, how are you billing the client? Hourly versus flat fee versus contingency basis, right? The contingency basis and the flat fees will not show the actual time. It'll show just the cost in here. And of course, if anything's been paid as well. Okay. Okie doke. I am going to open up the the webinar for your questions now. So go ahead and shoot away. Give a couple more minutes there. Looks like Sunny Koo has a question with regards to the general ledger check register. Okay, and she's asking, when clicking on the general check register, how can I permanently change the start and end date? If you're referring to the general check register here, GL, and we're going down to the check register, and you're referring to the start date, as in the inception and the end date, that's what it defaults to, unfortunately. So you would have to enter your own and make those changes. That is by default the setting that we have. Yeah, you can change it, but you have to manually change it. I thought you were referring to as a default setup. So the minute that you open up this window, it's always going to have, say, 1/1/1900. You can always come in here and change it to whatever date you like. Uh, that's that's how the system is set up, as far as I'm concerned. I don't think we have a feature that we can. I don't know. Have you tried? I could do that right now. Let's see. 01/01 2019. Right. That's there. Done. So let's go back in. Will it go back to that? No. It always goes back to. Unfortunately, always goes back to the date. Yeah, Sonny. As far as making that manual change, if it's a setup that can be done after the fact, maybe technical support will have an answer for that. I don't have the answer other than that I know that you will have to change it manually. Sorry about that, Sonny. There's another question by Christina Fernandez. How can I eliminate or change a bill that has been invoiced to a client that is before a paid bill, but they dispute it and will not be paid or will be paying a different amount? Excellent question. Christina, if that happens to be the case, and like you said in your example, that is before a paid bill, in other words, you send out the invoice, right? The client gets it, they don't want to pay for it because they're feeling like, oh, this should be revised, and you have to resend another invoice, right? You can always unpost the bill that you sent, and then you can reissue it. So, in under billing, after you've posted it in the system, and I'm guessing that you've posted it, right? Um, because if you haven't posted it, it's even easier, right? All you got to do is just revise it and resend it. But if you did post it in the system, you can go to billing, and then you can go to unpost bills. After you click on unpost bills, enter in the matter number. It'll retrieve all the invoices there. In other words, all the invoices you've sent. So, for example, Stefan Bell, right? If I and let's say it was one of these that I have not paid, right? Let's say the last one, and I have not paid for it, then it's easy to just highlight it, hit on post, and it'll unpost the invoice, and then you can revise it and resend the new one. I don't know if this is a question or a statement. The system does not allow to unbill if a payment has been received for a later bill. The system does not allow to unbill. Well, you can always unpost it as long as you don't haven't applied any trust monies against it. Okay, but if you apply some trust monies against it, it will not let you unpost it. So this question that you're asking me, I would have to see it specifically. Um, Christina, that could maybe something taken off of the question. It can't. I want to grasp it and be able to understand it for you. And if maybe we can arrange some time later on, if you contact me, I'll be able to see it on your end to see exactly what you're referring to. It's a little bit easier for me to understand step by step what you're trying to accomplish. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I see a question here with regards to more general trainings that we offer. Okay, so just so you know, we have revamped all of our trainings specifically for for Abacus Law. So if you go to schedule a service down here, you go to abacusnext.com, right? Put in abacusnext.com and go all the way to the bottom where it says schedule a service. And on any page you're in, if you go all the way to the bottom, it says schedule a service. And I know some of you already booked some classes and whatnot, but maybe have not been exposed to the new setup that we have. These are the terms and conditions. Obviously, you would get click next on that, and obviously you want Abacus Law, right, as your classes because this is your product. So you click on Abacus Law. Within there now, we have the breakdown of what we call Abacus Law onboarding training, which is clearly case and practice management onboarding training. This is the learning sequence of what we require for you to start off with. Okay, if you click there, that's basically saying that you can then book firm administrator training, entering and editing data, creating and managing forms and link documents. Okay, now this is clearly the case and practice management part of Abacus, right? After you're done with that and you wanted more specific trainings, you can always do Abacus Law training. In other words, general training. We have a whole new set of curriculum of classes that we offer. Okay, anywhere from keeping track of your time to customizing names and matter screens and whatnot. I know you guys are a little bit more interested in billing and accounting. So having said that, that same setup that we have for case and practice management for onboarding, right? And general trainings, we're going to have it for accounting and billing. So these are your accounting and billing onboarding trainings, session one, session two, and then accounts payable. But then we also have more accounts, accounting, and billing training, as in general types of training. If I click on that, then you're going to have, again, a whole list of our trainings that we have to offer. You know, when you're coming on board for the first time with our clients, I mean, with Abacus, we can teach you how to balance, do the balance forwards for accounting, do the balance forwards for billing, right? Bank reconciliation classes, general ledger reports, general ledger training as a whole, maintenance of the general ledger and billing. So payroll, you get the idea. These are a lot of our classes that are more specific now that we have to offer. And at any given point, when you book these, it's not like what we're doing right now, right? Where I'm simply just going over the material and you guys are having questions and I'm answering some of your questions, but there's not that back and forth. And these are what we call one-on-one sessions. You're able to ask away as many as questions as you like, right? And you get that one-on-one attention from the trainer, okay? Billing reports, billing with trust transfers, okay? You're going to get a lot of these. The other concept that I need to make sure, and I don't know if you guys are aware of, and I just want to reiterate, whenever you see this register for free webinar under one class, okay, this simply means that just like this training or this webinar that I'm giving you, you guys get a freebie, okay? Now this class is more of a one-on-one. This is again free, but it's more this sense set of style where you guys ask the questions on the chat, right? If I get to it, I can answer it. You know, and sometimes examples like Christina's, I'm not able to address right away, maybe address them later, and it sort of kind of breaks the flow. Maybe she gets too busy later on. She's not going to ask me again. So instead of having that, if you pay for the 197, you get that one-on-one attention. We can look exactly at what you're referring to, and we can give you an answer right then and there, not just for that, but for many other questions that you might have. So clearly, based on the type of topic and based on whether it offers a free webinar or not, maybe the free webinar suffices. Like right now, many of you might join this and you're like, this is great. I don't really need to take a class where I wanted to go over matter billing details because you answer most of my questions. And that's great, fine and dandy. However, if you wanted that more one-on-one attention and you wanted more detail, then by all means, you could have just booked a class that was going to talk about, or go over certain topics within the classes that we offer here. Okay, so I wanted to make sure that you guys understood how this works based on the question that I got. And it's just a matter of knowing that all of these classes are now available, and there's a little bit more to it than the older setup of classes that we had to offer. Okay, let's see. Any other questions? Okay, give it a few more minutes. If there's no other questions, we're going to wrap things up. Okay, well, it looks like that will be it, folks. Thank you again. We really appreciate you guys attending our sessions, our free webinars. There's more to come in the future, so be on the lookout for those on the topics that interest you, of course. And we'll be seeing some of you in the later webinars down the line. Thank you so much. Have a great day and goodbye.